I don't know how much better it could get than, hitting around 80%. I'm actually above 80. I'm between 80 and 90 in the past 2 months, where it's just moderate. I'm not trying to bring in tons, but I'm making, good 30, 40, 50% account increase with that in, only a few weeks, just be moderately taking good trades consistently.
Have you found that the economic crisis and coronavirus is making it harder for you to get profit, or is it just the same?
No, I haven't noticed. It's still the same. I mean, look at a chart. And what way do you think it's going to go? What does the pattern look like? Is it a pattern that's clear? I mean, if it's a pattern that's clear that I can see, then I'll probably trade it. Let's just say the coronavirus really does mess up the economy, and even my part of construction. Then okay, then I'm not scared of that, because I can just trade if I have to. As long as there's a financial chart, I'm going to trade. I can trade. So my journey so far with trading, and since I started studying the education that you provide, I started out in California. I was working a little bit in California in construction management, and I had some family and friends out there too. So I was kind of like, I was at, this was 2 years ago now, so I was late 20s into my early 30s. And I was at the point where I was wanting to travel around a little bit. So I went out to California from Florida. I went from Florida to California. And when I was out in California, I started studying Forex. And I actually didn't start, I started my initial training, the education I started with was, boom, I learned from you right away. But the person that got me interested was this friend of mine. That's a friend on Instagram of mine, and he's in Egypt, or he's from Egypt. His family's from Egypt. But this kid is young. He's like 25 years old, and he literally I'm pretty sure he has millions, and he did it all himself. I mean, he didn't have money to start. I mean, he did it himself, and he drives around, you know how some of those people on Instagram that trade Forex that are really successful, they're flashy with their cars and stuff. Well, he was kind of flashy with his cars. And I was just like, what does this guy do? And, I started, looking into I was like, how does this kid make so much money? And that's what he does. He traded Forex. And I was like, okay. And, I started looking into the Forex market, and just got my interest. And I didn't want to jump into some things that didn't work, because when I initially started researching just Forex in general, I realized there were some bad things out there that people could learn. And I was like, well, I need to find something that is right. And just me listening to your kind of your primary videos that you, just to show people the skills you teach, your primary videos that you have on YouTube, I reached out to you. And that's kind of how the very start of my trading.
About 3 years ago?
A couple years ago, like 2 years now. Almost 2 years. Not even 2 years, to be honest with you. Almost 2 years though.
And you're about 30 now?
Yeah, I'm 31. Yeah, my education's in Florida. I studied construction management. I know me and you were talking a little bit ago. You were in real estate, but I studied construction management in Florida, in Miami, and I just got to the age where I was like, I want to travel around a little bit. So then I went to California. I was just there kind of temporarily. I wanted to go to California for fun, really. And then now I'm back in Florida, and I'm going to be in Florida the rest of my life. I mean, this is, as far as weather, if I want to live in the United States and if I want to stay in the United States, it'll be Florida because of the weather. I can't do cold weather anymore, because I have lived in New York in the Northeast of the United States too. So
it's only been 2 years since you started trading. And
2 years. And I had success right out the gate. I mean, I didn't waste time, Scott. I mean, I didn't study other people's, tools they offer, and, all those shams. A lot of them are shams. Or, I don't know if the people's intention that create tools and indicators that are just pointless. I don't know if their intentions are really bad, but, I didn't waste time. I didn't waste time with other stuff. I started studying patterns, market patterns, and Elliott wave, and I jumped right into it. I had pretty strong success right away.
Yeah, I
Now,
kind of remember when you first started that. I was thinking, how does this guy pick it up so fast? Because other people, they kind of struggle for a long time. It takes them a while, but it just seems like you kind of had it right from the beginning.
well, I had some time on my hands where I was spending more time than probably the average person with looking at charts. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I kind of got addicted right away. I was like, hey, this is a really good opportunity to make good profit and good money. And if I can hone in this skill, then it's something I want to have, that I can use the rest of my life. Because especially with construction, I mean, it really depends on the market. So if like the economy crashes, there'll be less construction projects, and it really depends on the economy with construction. So I needed something to kind of where I could rely on myself if I do good, and that's just how it worked out. And I did have success right away. Did have some losses too, but it really took, I think, looking back so far for with me, I was kind of aggressive too, to be honest with you. But I had, a 400% return after, I think it was probably after 4 months of trading where I got that type of return on my account. So now there was also, so that was like the epitome. Boom, took a few months, and boom, made 400% of my account, just making winning trades left and right. Right. So then immediately when that happened, I thought, okay, I already got it down. I could get in any trade. I could see the pattern, and eventually it'll turn, right? Because when it does three ways or something, like, okay, well, even if it keeps going a little more, eventually it'll turn. So I made some bad trades after that, and that's when I kind of reset myself, because I had some projects come up, and then I moved back to Florida, and I just kind of stopped trading for a little bit, still trading intermittently, but I was just kind of taking a breather. And since I kind of picked back up trading again, I've been, since in the past few months, I've been, very high percentage winning trades, less being in for longer periods of time. Just kind of, if I get a good trade, make a good trade, and only in it for a little bit, I'd rather, even if it's my only trade of the week, I'd rather have a positive gain, not really having much risk of, being a little too aggressive, getting in a trade where I might lose. I like to be in trades that are pretty much automatic, staying for a little bit. If I make good profit, get out, you know, at least that's where I'm at right now, where I think that's kind of the best thing to where I can be consistent. Cause I mean, it's very rarely, looking back where I had the really strong return coming out the gate when I started learning to my losses. My losses, when I look back at it, they were staying in too long. Every one of them. None of them. Usually, they're often you get into a trade when it's moving in a direction. You see a pattern, and it's the Elliott wave, and you get in, and it starts going in your favor. And then I stayed in too long on some to where they just reversed or turned or whatever it was. And usually, in each of those trades, thinking back, I had an opportunity where I could have got out and not really taking a loss, maybe even taking a gain, just it would have been just a really small gain. But I didn't, thinking I knew, because I was at such a good start that I thought, nope, it's going to turn eventually. And these, sometimes a couple of the trades I had, they just didn't turn. They just kept going. And um, so I learned from that.
Seems like it takes a really strong character to make it through that period where you had a whole bunch of winning trades and then you're starting to have losing trades. And that's the point where most people would just give up. But I think you probably knew that there was a way to keep on refining that.
Yeah, I mean, the losses did suck, especially when I had such a really good return. Looking back, I wish I would have just closed a couple trades and still built on that winning, because I had 400%. It's hard to lose that. I lost a good amount of that. A good 80% of it. So if looking back, I could have stopped it at 20% loss, 10-15% loss of the 400% that I already won. So, it goes back to, being in too long, because it was just trades that I was in way too long. And then there's a couple trades where I was in it, almost 3-4 weeks. And I'm like, oh, it's going to turn eventually. It's going to turn eventually. And it just kept going. And I'm just like, dude, I don't even want to be in anymore. And they did eventually turn. They did eventually turn where if I would have just stayed in, I would have got back to it, but it would have been so far in the red. It might have blown my account. I don't even know.
Oh,
Because I didn't do the math. It might have just blown my account before it turned. But they did eventually turn. I
That's
did learn
a
from that.
habit that I found. It will just devastate the account if you don't stop. And
Just waiting.
I had that habit too.
Yeah, so it was my young trading life mistakes to where now, at least, I can consistently, like right past month, 2 months, month and a half, 2 months, I'm at a over 80% clip. And I'm talking just not being in for day, 2 days, 3 days. No, I'm not doing that. I'm getting in and out. And I'm, it's pretty much automatic. And there's a couple trades like GBP Aussie this week where it started going down, where I got in on Sunday and I had a pretty good boom, started off the week good, through Monday, half a day, 12 hours, whatever I was in. And I got out. And if I would have stayed in that, I would have made more profit, because it's still going down. I think it's going up right now. It's probably going to turn again down. But anyways, if I would have stayed in, I would have made more. But there's times where I've got into a trade and stayed in too long. So there's times where getting out early is better, because for me right now, because sometimes it'll reverse and you'll lose all your profit. And sometimes if you stay in, depending on the pattern, everything depends on the pattern you're getting into. But sometimes it'll keep going. If I'm in a profit, it's what are the chances it's going to reverse? If the pattern looks like it might reverse at some point, do I just want to take profit, or do I want to stay in because I'll miss out on additional profit by getting out? And just right now, I'm, just wanting to kind of pull profit out of it. And if I do the way I'm doing right now, I can consistently, I won't ever really lose. I mean, there's a few trades where I'll lose because I just get out too early, or, extra early. I don't really stay in trades long at all, but a little too extra early where I've lost a couple trades. But, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, I could be winning. I'm getting in a direction that's moving of a long-term pattern, looking at the monthly all the way down to the hours, looking at, all the time chart, all the time frames. What is the best probability? I'm looking at trades. What is the best probability it's going to go 1-2 directions, up or down? And I'm getting in trades that are pretty strong probability and just taking profit out of it. And there's no stress when you're out of a trade, and it's not my, my goal with trading is just to have an account that's gaining interest on it. I got to pay capital gain taxes and stuff, but I got so much stuff with business, construction business, that I'm writing off a lot of taxes too, to where I can make a pretty good. It's kind of like having a bank account that gets interest, except I am in control of the amount of interest I put onto my trading account. So that's kind of how I trade. I'm not trading. Maybe one day if I had $100,000 in the bank account, I probably would just be able to trade the rest of my life. I don't think I would have to work ever again if I had $100,000 in the bank account. I wouldn't have to. I'd be pretty comfortable, making a living off trading. But where I am right now in my life, I need to, have my full time, passion. What I love to do is as in construction management, as a construction manager, and that's my primary source of income. But I make good income that is going to set up for retirement. And maybe one day I switch over to withdrawing too, though. I mean, I think a while I was talking about, compounding, the power of compound interest, which is true. I mean, but with compound interest, you got to adjust your how much you're trading, like how much you're risking. You got to adjust that to really compound. Otherwise, it really, if I pull out money and I have, let's just say I have 3, 4, 5,000 into an account, and I'm just want to double that account, pull out money, double that account, pull out money. Compounding would be that 3,000 turns to 4,000, which turns to 6,000, which turns to 8,000, blah blah blah, and it compounds.
Have you found that the economic crisis and coronavirus is making it harder for you to get profit, or just the same?
No, I haven't noticed. I haven't even been paying attention to that. Nowadays, it's strictly, I don't even use tools, a lot of tools. I'm just looking at Elliott Wave. Sometimes I'll draw trend lines are really useful. Um, Channels, I love channels a lot.
But the
News, of
process
course.
of trading is just it's just
It's
still the
still the
same.
same. It's still the same. I mean, look at a chart, and what way do you think it's going to go? What does the pattern look like? Is it a pattern that's clear? I mean, if it's a pattern that's clear that I can see, then I'll probably trade it. Right now, I mean, Euro Aussie. You could look at Euro Aussie on the daily, and it looks pretty good. It looks like it's kind of making the fifth wave on the daily. So I think that might be a good short. And GBP Aussies, I've been making good money on GBP Aussie like the past 3 weeks. To be honest with you,
Oh
I'm starting to
yeah,
like that pair a lot because
yeah, that's been working
it's
out.
been on the long term. Yeah, on the weekly, I think I drew a channel that goes back to like 2016. It's at the top of the channel. It's been playing around at the top of the channel, up, down, up, down. But every time I thought it was going to go down, it's gone down. Every time I thought it's going to go up, it's gone up, and I just haven't been in it when it's gone up. And it's up right now. I think it's going to be another short pretty soon. And Euro Aussie's another example. I mean, there's some good opportunities that I've been missing because I've just been kind of in and out, like that Euro where it just launched up, and then Euro when it launched down. Those two recent moves it made. The Euro dollar where it went up really long, really far, and then went down really far. I missed both of those pretty much. But I think I'm kind of content with just being moderately successful at, making sure, because when I had that 400% return starting out, I was bragging a little bit to my family and my dad. And when I had my loss, I was like, shit. And I talked to him. I was like, I lost, I lost some of it. And because I would have moved back to Florida with a bunch extra money that I lost. And when, I was just kind of casually talking to him, and he was like, it's not, turtle wins the race. And I'm just like, well, that's, I thought about that, and I was like, that's true. I need to be, I was getting way too aggressive and trying to make a bunch of money now, which is good if the market gives it to you. But I was forcing trades because I was getting too aggressive, too confident in myself, that I self-inflicted my losses because I was too aggressive, too confident in what I was seeing, and not realizing that I need to be a little more careful, and then, be a little quicker with closing trades. So, once he told me, he was like, it's about the turtle, it made me think, long term.
That's
Okay.
your
So
dad
then
that
I
said
took,
that?
yeah, yeah, he said something like that about a turtle. The turtle wins the race. Something about being slow but steady progress. And I was kind of I was in it for I was in it long term. My original intentions when I started training was to learn to trade, to be able to make money long term. But when I had such real good success in the early stages of my trading education experience so far, I was like, overly confident, and I was just trying to make extra money, a lot of money, too fast. And rather than just being slow and steady, once I got up to that 400%, I should have just been slow and steady, and then I could have been maybe 4 or 5 times what I had at that point in time. Now, so I learned from that, and now it made me think, that what he said to me made me think, about just being slow and steady long term. And then that's why, if I haven't, like, why I mentioned the euro dollar where it went up a lot, went down a lot, I'm not really upset that I wasn't in some of those good moves because I'm still in good moves. I'm still making money, but a moderate that is for long term growth. And I think I can be moderately successful, not overly aggressive, but moderate, that turns into long-term wealth that I'll have, and I'll be able to continue to keep taking money. Um, all because of the way I'm looking at charts, which is pretty much all Elliott Wave. Everything's pretty much Elliott Wave for me.
Did you
Um,
change your amount of risk per trade?
Sometimes I do. If I'm going to be in a long time, yeah, I will. I trade less. I'll get a less. It's smaller lot size, and if I'm going to be in the long term one, if I think something's setting up for a long term, I will now. But beforehand, I didn't. When I got a little overly confident, I didn't. I still had that same couple lots, more than a lot, two lots, which was pretty aggressive for being in the first year of trading. With I don't have tons, hundreds of thousands in the bank like some people. So, but yeah, when I'm getting in something long term, yeah. But if I just want to make a quick buck and I see something going for maybe like a day trade or something where I just want to, I know for a fact it's going to go away a direction for a day, at least a day, right? I'll get in. I'll get in that with still a pretty good size. But if it's something that's long term turn, I'll put a small lot size because oftentimes, when it's getting ready to be at a big turning point, it kind of fumbles around there before it actually turns sometimes. And, sometimes it'll keep going before it does turn, getting in too early. So um, when it's a long-term trade, I'll just lower it, because then if it does keep going, against me until it does a long-term trade, it won't really be much money lost. You'll get it all back when it turns. I kind of, my self research led me to you, and what you teach is the foundation. I mean, everything in life has a foundation. Faith has a foundation. Anything you build has a foundation. You need a foundation, and Elliott Wave and some of the tools that you show are real. That really do happen on financial charts. That's kind of the foundation, and then you can kind of modify the way you strategize, how you want to use those truths and tools. So, but mine's, it's pretty simple. It's Elliott Wave. It's really all it is. If I see something that's going to make, I really like when a pattern has made a very clear pattern. It's got to be something I can read, but I really like when it's made two ways, when it's gone 1, 2. It might be an A, B, or it might be a 1, 2. And then that third one is usually, if you can tell if it's usually a C wave, but if it's 1, 2, I love those. Just getting in, those are pretty much, once you wait till it starts making that 3, those are ones are, that's what makes my current, clip, over 80%, which is pretty good, Scott,
Mm.
is I'm getting in these highly probable
Oh
trades, which
yeah.
is all it is Elliott Wave. It's really that simple. All it is, well, I say it's simple because I've been working so hard to where I've been looking at trades or charts. I've been looking at charts for long periods of time, especially when I first started out. I spent a good year of a lot of time into looking at it, um, looking at charts. There's only so much time in the day that we can get together as a group and learn from you. There's those sessions, but outside of that, I was looking at charts, and it's really, my eyes now can see it better. Yeah,
Oh
I
yeah.
can see patterns better. So, it's something that I could see, other people might not be able to see. I know everybody in our group, yes, they can all see what I see, but other people, they
Not
might not
everyone.
see what we see. So,
Seems like the
um,
hardest part, or the most biggest challenge, is always being selective and having patience to wait until it finally gets there.
yeah, but I love it. I mean, the skills, I'm very grateful for the skills, and I'm going to continue to master it. I mean, I don't know how much better it could get than, hitting around 80%. I'm actually above 80. I'm between 80 and 90 in the past 2 months, where it's just moderate. I'm not trying to bring in tons, but I'm making, good 30, 40, 50% account increase with that in, only a few weeks. Just be moderately taking good trades consistently. And I just look back at my history of my trades, and it's red and blue, and then I'll count. I just count. For example, when I brought that up to you guys, I just counted them for the past month. I counted my winning trades, I counted my lost trades. Right now, it's like 20, 24 out of the past 28, 25 out of the past 29, something like that. So, and there's some good ones in there. So it's kind of like right now, like you're Aussie, just wait when that does turn, if it does. Once it finishes, you're in that long right now. Once that gets up to a better point where it looks like it might turn, like that's the fifth wave, that would be a really high probable one for me to that I would be interested in going short. I don't know, maybe you're Aussie or GP Oz. I'm doing pretty good actually with my construction business because literally right now as we speak, I think I told you we'd starting up some projects, and where I'm part ownership of it as a general contractor and construction manager. So I get basically a split of profitability of these projects. And I met a couple clients yesterday, husband and wife, and they're leaning towards having me build over $1 million structure for them. And wow. It's right on a beach. The land of this property is going to cost them $300,000 or $400,000. I think they already bought it. They already closed on this. They own the land. It costs them $300,000 or $400,000, and they already have a design, blueprints ready. And I shot them our proposal, and it's going to turn, which is a contract, and we'll see if they're going to sign on it. Right now I gave it to them and let them digest it. And, but I feel pretty good about getting that contract. So, that's a passion of mine, but I love trading too, to where, okay, let's just say the coronavirus really does mess up the economy and even, my part of construction, then okay, then I'm not scared of that because I can just trade if I have to, unless, eventually there's a day that the world doesn't have financial markets where we can all trade financial markets. Maybe, someday that'll actually, happen. But as long as there's a financial chart, I'm going to trade. I can trade. So, and I've been looking at some different gold charts too recently, but I've got the set pairs that are kind of my priority pairs that I like trading. And I look at those the most. And then, so then if one of those pairs has a pattern that looks like it's going to be a good trade, then I'll just monitor that more than any others. Cause it's a lot of work when you're going through, every pair, looking at all the yens and stuff like that. It's a lot of work. So I'm just kind of, I'm picking, I have my set pairs that I like trading, and I'm just going to trade those consistently win. My main thing is having the ability to be in control. So I control my profit. I can control how much I lose by eliminating that.
And that's a good idea.
Because like I'm saying, I'm really just steady growth. But I am looking at and my pairs, the pairs my priority pairs. If they give me something, I'm going to trade it as long as I know about it. But that's my story so far. It's doing pretty good. And I think, you like to be humble. I like to be humble, but yeah, it's definitely skills that I'm grateful for. And, I worked hard in the past year, and the first year I worked pretty hard to be able to see patterns better, because that's the key with daily wave. Are you able to see it? And if it's just a chart is just messy and I can't see it, then I just won't trade it. And I think if I'm selective, I can do that, on, like I could turn it on like riding a bike the rest of my life. So
yeah, that is amazing, because there are people who've been trading for 10 years who don't have the level of skill that you got in the first 1 to 2 years. So you're just going to keep getting better from here, right? So you've already got it.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident. but I still, I, I still like to come, like have the membership and hear from you guys because it's still, additional insight is always good. But I am confident to where I can trade on my own too, though. Like identify trades on my own. Yeah, I mean, I think
Good.
somebody, yeah, as an example of that is somebody in the group did one of the alerts recently to where it got my attention. And then once I saw that, I was like, it really was a start of a move. And once I saw it, I was like, okay, well, that's pretty much automatic. And that's one of the high probability ones where it's really, you could tell it's the first wave, right? You can tell it's the first strong wave of something. And, those ones you can get in, it's pretty much automatic. You can get some profit out of it as long as you get in relatively early.